Hasn't this been really cool? It's been so amazing. I'm just so happy to have been invited and to be here. It's really great to be here. My adventure with you this evening is to talk about compassion as a revolutionary idea. And my thinking here grows out of the work of a teacher from my tradition. Some of you will know Desmond Tutu. And the Archbishop talks about people confusing compassion and love with sentimentality, that kind of thing. But he argues that they're actually, and we saw David's point about compassion as a verb. And I think that I'm going to push the envelope even farther and suggest that actually we're talking about a revolutionary action, and that we do in fact have a choice. We can stay with the status quo, with all of the terror and the horror and the pain that we hear about and we're inundated on a daily basis, or we can choose to be compassionate. So I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to tell a story about my experience and my family as a way of illustrating how we might be able to do this. So all good stories start with once upon a time. Once upon a time, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning and the phone rings. I pick it up, because of course it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's my mother. Hello, dear. Now, I should tell you a number of things about my mother, and I will in a moment. What she said was, and I'll never forget this, your father has had a stroke. Now, I don't know about you, I had an up and down relationship with my dad. This was, however, a shocking thing for me to hear. My dad was sick, and not just the flu, he was very sick. I should explain, though, that my mom, well, if you're thinking of a movie star, my mom is actually Mrs. Doubtfire. It explains a lot. People who know me will go, oh, yes, that would explain a lot. And so she speaks like this. She's still alive. Hello, dear. It's lovely to see you. Yes. So if my mom is Mrs. Doubtfire, my dad was, well, actually Sean Connery. And you'll see the similarities here. And so dinner on Sunday evening would be, well, dear, I'm wondering what we're going to do this week. Well, I'm not entirely sure that we'll be doing much of anything, dear. We'll be taking. So that was Sunday dinner in my house. So Mrs. Doubtfire has phoned to say that Sean Connery has had a stroke. I do what you do. They lived in Victoria, suburban Victoria at the time. Get onto the helijet, go over, and go to the hospital. And I'm standing there, and my dad, it's really early days. Obviously, he's only had a stroke a couple of hours ago, a few hours ago. We don't know what's going on. We do learn that right away we're going to be spending a lot of time doing tests. That meant 3 days, from Monday to Wednesday, going from hospital to clinic to liquor store, to hospital to clinic to liquor store to home, back to liquor store to home. So what we discovered in those 3 days was that Dad, the stroke was not debilitating. He had some short-term memory loss, which may be actually related to the alcohol. But the really important thing was that his long-term memory was there, and we were actually now going to be able to share time with him. He wasn't, in fact, going to die for another 18 months, but we knew that there was some stuff going on, and we had these wonderful, deep conversations about where he had been and what life had been like. But we did know that this was the end. This was the beginning of the end, the path towards whatever the next step was going to be for him. My mom says to me on the end of the third day, well, dear, it's about time for you to leave. Your father and I have to get on with the rest of our lives. I said, well, you're welcome, first of all. She says, oh, of course, thank you, dear, but no, get out. So what that meant was, as luck would have it, I had to do a speech presentation downtown Victoria, get into a taxi, go down, hotel that night, fitful sleep, not very comfortable, get up, do my presentation, and this is how I find myself walking in front of the Empress Hotel, downtown Vancouver, downtown Victoria, headed to the seaplane terminal. And I have my suitcase and my briefcase, I'm walking along, and all of a sudden it comes to me, commit a random act of compassion. I don't know where that came from, it just pops into my head, random act of compassion. I'm thinking, okay. And all of a sudden I start to notice that there's these parking meters and vehicles there. And I thought, well, the next parking meter that I come to that's expired for a vehicle, I'll reach into my pocket. Sure enough, I do reach into my pocket, put a loonie in, turn the crank. And this is the revolutionary moment, folks. All of the anger, the frustration, the fear that I was experiencing is immediately changed because I've committed a random act of compassion. I pick up my stuff, take a couple of paces, and on the side of the van are the words, Revenue Canada. And I was back at that parking meter trying to put my loonie back. What's important here, though, is this shift that happened. I was angry, I was scared, I was grieving. But in committing that act of compassion, everything changed. And in fact, I joke about the Revenue Canada thing, but I've actually laughed. It was funny. What I learned in that moment and since then is in all of the horror, all of the pain that we experience, when we commit random acts of kindness for ourselves and for other people, we can actually make a difference for ourselves and for those other people, and all important for our own psyche and our own brain. So I suggest there's a couple of things here we can be doing. One is around learning and humility. I don't have all the answers, you don't have all the answers. Let's think that through. Let's be humble with each other. Every single one of the wisdom traditions talks about the importance of doing unto others as you would have done to you. Compassion is about presence and not giving presents, and compassion is about random acts. Because, my dear friends, the world is now, in fact, too small for anything but truth, and too dangerous for anything but love. And for all of the fun we have, that is the very serious point that we're in. So compassion, my friends, is no longer an option. We do have to change. And my challenge for you is, what random acts of compassion are you going to do starting tonight because of this great event? Thank you all very much.